Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is really kind of an intimate angle going on right here. I'm in my bed because I'm so lazy, but I also felt like pressing record because I got my hair done today and I thought it looked good. I don't know if you would agree, but I feel like it does, and I know it's not gonna look half as good tomorrow. So for my selfish reasons, I'm recording right now in my bed. So I hope you don't mind the angle. But I wanted to talk about the kind of rise of anti-intellectualism and why we as humans need to read more. Like, we need to read more for the sake of humanity, okay? Can I just first of all start with Wuthering Heights? Because people have this idea that criticizing a movie that is made by a woman or a movie that is supposed to just be an adaptation of a novel, criticizing that makes you like a bad human being because you're not open to interpretation, you're not open to change. First of all, I disagree, because I always believe that the book is like 99% of the time better than the movie adaptation or whatever TV adaptation, whatever. That isn't to say I don't like adaptations, because I like seeing the stories I love and that really touched me. I like seeing those on screen, okay? I like watching those things because I feel like it reaches a wider audience. And a story that, may not have reached people otherwise now is reaching the masses through movies or TV and alternate forms of media, like, especially if it's a story that you feel like needs to be heard. Okay, so I don't vibe with this idea that we are book snobs that just want the movie to be exactly like the book. That's not a reason we're so mad when adaptations like Wuthering Heights exist. The reason we're angry is because it is a blasphemy of the original, of the source material. It undermines the values and the message it's trying to send. And it's, on top of that, potentially harmful. Those are the reasons why us, as people who like the source material, would be angry, okay? It's not that there are these minor changes or shifts that had to happen for them to create a movie, because obviously logistically there's going to be some changes. It's when you portray a person of color as a white person, when in the book race and class and being excluded is a huge part of the story. And in the context of what's happening right now in the world, that's not okay. But also, you had a choice to cast the person of color as what they're supposed to be, and you didn't. And then on top of that, you cast one of the opposing white characters as a brown person. And same for one of the other Asian characters that was casted as an Asian person. So obviously you had the ability to cast people of color, but you choose not to. And the message that sends across can be really damning. And on top of that, you don't even, like, you disregard what the story was actually trying to say, and you turn it into like a dark romance. And I have nothing against that category, to be honest. Like, if you want to create that, create it. But when the source material isn't a dark romance, when it's not a romantic novel at its core, and then you sexualize it and make it like the sexual fantasy in your head, at that point it's a totally different movie, right? So why are you calling it Wuthering Heights? Because you're giving people the wrong idea. You're smearing the name of a classic, and you're creating potential harm for groups of people. And in this day and age where media literacy is at an all-time low, this is kind of perpetuating into that cycle. Okay, we need to have higher standards for our arts, for our artists, because the standards are on the floor. They're below the floor right now. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about this in the context of Wuthering Heights because it was a movie that happened recently and the discussion is all very new, but I feel like these are my thoughts about adaptations as a whole and how it relates to media literacy and the lack of criticism, like constructive criticism. Because why are we not allowed to criticize anymore? Why do we have to be so okay with anything? You're supposed to be allowed to criticize things. You're supposed to be allowed to actually analyze things properly. Even if you're someone who's a fan of something, you should be open to being critical about it because you love it and you want it to be better, right? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. And I really hope this trend kind of gets better because I feel like as an industry, the film industry has kind of been devolving in that sense. But I'm also not a movie snob whatsoever. I just wanted to provide my thoughts as a book lover on adaptations. And it's not necessarily that one person is wrong in their interpretation, but it's that you can read the same thing and get so many different ideas and meanings from it without debasing the core message, without devaluing the core message like movies like Wuthering Heights do. But also, I've seen discourse on Book Talk about things being a little difficult to read or authors using big words, big language. And then the examples they give are like normal words. And what concerns me there is that, first of all, this is what books are meant to be. You're not supposed to be reading books that are always continually at or below the level that you can read at. You're supposed to slightly challenge yourself because that's how you learn language. Like, the reason a lot of readers are good with words and people like better their language abilities, their English abilities, is because they read so much and they learn meanings of words through context clues, and they learn difficult words through the context of a story. And even when you don't understand a specific word, if it seems too difficult, then you just search it up, no matter. And now you learned a new word. Like, it shouldn't be like, there's a difference between complaining that a novel is super like academic language or like insanely complicated words that people don't use in real life, but then to say that words that people actually do use in real life or are like slightly more complicated than the language you speak on a day-to-day basis, and you're complaining about that also concerns me as a reader, because the way I've improved my writing skills and my English is by reading at a level that was slightly above what I was used to and going up from there. That's how we engage our critical thinking skills, right? And the power of a good book is that it teaches you lessons through the lens of someone else's shoes and in a totally different story or world. So the reason I love fantasy, I know not everyone does, but the reason I love fantasy and fiction in general is because hearing certain lessons in our world, in our context, we hear those all the time, but it doesn't hit as hard, but it wrapped the same message, the same lesson, the same core theme in the world of this fantasy novel that has different rules from us and in characters that aren't related to us and don't exist in our real life. Suddenly the message hits a lot harder because you're able to understand it from a different perspective and from that character's point of view. And it just makes it more fun and interesting to learn these lessons rather than hearing them like straight up in maybe like, let's say, a self-help novel. Like, compared to self-help, learning that same lesson in a fiction novel can help you contextualize it better, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense right now, but I feel like that's why more people need to read. Because you're able to learn things in a more fun way, and at the same time improve your critical thinking skills improve your cognitive abilities. And another thing, number 3, is people need to read because it helps you combat brain rot, okay? Because we're all doom scrolling constantly on our phones, and like our attention spans are becoming shorter and shorter each day. And I am one of those people as well. Like, I'm not going to like abstain from that at all. Like, I'm not going to be like I am super smart or better than everyone else and that my attention span is not totally screwed, because I notice it myself. Like, I notice my attention span being a lot shorter and weaker than it used to be when I was younger. And the reason is because we're consuming content that is made to be looked through quickly, that is made to be super in our faces and bright and loud and like entertaining and super quick, that we don't have time to rest. Like, that's what happens when you're scrolling, is like you see something really quick, you have a quick laugh, and you go through another thing and you have a quick cry. Like, the problem is, like, it plays roller coaster rides with our emotions, and it gives us a dopamine rush. Okay, that is the big problem here, is the dopamine. Our dopamine receptors are becoming more used to this constant hit of emotion, that we're not able to sit through and actually focus through longer messages anymore. We're losing that ability. And reading gives us the ability to calm our brain down. It's not as much of a like constant rush, like every 30 seconds of emotions. It's a story, so you have to stick with it longer. And it's better for your brain. I'm not saying that reading doesn't have emotion. I've cried my heart out over certain books because it's wrecked my soul. But then that comes through the course of reading the entire novel, through hours, days, weeks, sometimes months of reading a book, because you just pick it up and read it whenever you can. It's not a short thing. It's not a 30 seconds and I'm done. And it allows these same emotions to run their course more naturally, compared to when we're doom scrolling or consuming these other super short, quick forms of content, where like we hit that emotional peak way too fast. We get emotional, we cry way too fast, or we laugh way too quickly and then switch, it's done, and on to the next. A book gives you time to work through those emotions, and it's way more natural. It helps your attention span because you're reading something that cannot be finished in 30 seconds, and it's a more full story. And that in turn improves our ability to think critically and analyze content in a way that is not just surface level. And yeah, like we're problem solving with the character, you know, like if a character is going through something in their life, in that story, we problem solve along with them. We learn new details with them, and we put together the clues with them. That is literally what problem solving is. That is literally analyzing situations and context, and that is what critical thinking is. It's not fast. It's not easy. It's not meant just for a dopamine hit. It's exciting, but in a way where we're solving a puzzle. We're working through this maze with them. And I think that's what's beautiful about stories, is that you're literally living in someone else's shoes and living their life in that world with them. And so it allows you to kind of become more empathic. It allows you to connect to other people's stories better in real life, because as you're reading, you become more understanding to other people's problems. You learn that things are not black and white also, which is another big thing. Like, you understand gray area, you understand morally gray characters, you understand that nothing is as simple as it seems. And like, for example, I love fantasies with a lot of politics in it, like political intrigue, and a lot of that is very much a mirror of real life and can be applied to real life. And then reading that in a fictional story can make you more better equipped to understanding the real life scenarios that we're dealing with. It makes you more empathic to other people's situations, where before you might have not cared. You might have only been living in your bubble and cared about only yourself and the people around you, but now you care about other human beings more. It literally makes you a more empathetic, passionate, and better human being. It makes you kinder, not just nice, but kind, because those are two different things, and I can talk about that. I can go down a whole rant about nice versus kind, but I will save that for another video. But reading makes you a better person. It does, and I will die on that hill. It's made me a better person. I know it has. Like, I've literally seen the growth, my own growth, through my reading journey. And obviously there's still going to be people who like literally physically can't read. I'm not talking about that. But people who like aren't interested in books, or they find that they have a struggle to just sit down and read, I say pick up a book and just read as much as you can. You don't have to read a lot. And then pick it up again later. I do the same thing with classics. I can't read them continuously for long amounts of time. It's a muscle, like you're working different parts of your brain, so it might take time. And another tip I have is read books that are genres you consume in other medias that you watch, if that makes sense. So like if you're into like action and thriller, pick up a thriller book, pick up a book with some action and like, you know, that kind of stuff in it. Because there's literally a book for every single genre out there. You just gotta do some research. You'll find things. If you want a short book, there's short books that will be done faster. If you're someone who loves romance, so many romance books out there. If you like rom-coms, there's romance books out there that have comedic aspects in them. If you like watching like slice of life things, pick up a literary fiction book. Those are great for that. So there's never ending options when it comes to books, and I feel like that's where you can start. Pick up a book in a genre that relates to the other forms of media you consume. Same if you're a gamer. Okay, what kind of games do you play? Pick up a book that is related to those stories. Easy. I promise you will find, one day you'll find that book that makes you read for the rest of your life. And you'll be like, why didn't I do this before? And it's going to improve you as a person. It's going to make you a better human being. It's going to make you smarter. And it's going to make you... yeah, it's just going to make you better. I will end my rant there. I would love to hear everyone's comments. I hope this reaches the right people. If this lives in the void of YouTube, that's fine too. But I would love to create a discussion about this, because that's just the whole point of me filming this. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. If you're interested in hearing about writing, if any of you out there are writers or authors, subscribe, because I might start uploading some writing diaries, since I'm going to start writing a novel. I have started writing a novel, so I'm thinking about creating some videos around that. So if you're interested in that, stick around. But yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.